Well, the Qataris now announcing plans to acquire 24 Typhoon fighter jets from British defense group BAE Systems. Qatar is bolstering its military amid a fight with 4 of its Arab neighbors who accuse the country of supporting terrorism. This, of course, expected to come up this week as world leaders gather in New York for the annual meeting of the United Nations General Assembly. President Trump is set to address the 193-member body tomorrow. And joining me right now is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Qatar, His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al-Thani. Your Excellency, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Yeah, I guess first, let's get to the meeting that we're expecting from the UN General Assembly. What are you expecting in terms of conversation around the terrorism threat?
Well, actually, Qatar has been a very active player in the global coalition countering terrorism, which is under the leadership of the United States. We are hosting the center of command for the global coalition military efforts, and also Qatar is leading a lot of initiatives which, when it comes to address the root causes of the terrorism and extremism, and mainly focusing on the education and the reconstruction. So the issue of terrorism has been a global threat for us, facing the entire world for years, which needs an international cooperation, and all nations comes together under a united front to defeat the violent extremism and terrorism. So I think this year agenda will be very much focused on the countering terrorism issues and how we can enhance our efforts and enhance our collaboration in this area.
Cool. What can you do specifically? Because we know that Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain have all severed ties with Qatar amid a slew of punitive measures. People want answers as far as what you are doing specifically to reverse this notion that, in fact, the country is supporting terrorist groups like perhaps Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood. I want to ask you about that relationship as well.
Well, first of all, they have imposed those measures just 2 days after Riyadh summit, which was between the GCC and the United States President Trump, and the Muslim countries and the U.S. President, which united this front against terrorism and united this coalition to fight terrorism. After that 2 days, we had our state news agency has been subject to a cyber attack, which they used to justify the blockade they imposed against Qatar. And now, more than 100 days, they have failed to provide with any single evidence that Qatar is supporting terrorism, which is not the case here, because what Qatar is doing is an active player in this global coalition, as I have just mentioned, and they are accusing Qatar that supports of Al-Qaeda or Muslim Brotherhood, which is nonsense at all. How I'm investing in both sides of the equation when I am fighting terrorism and investing billions in this, and from the other hand I am supporting them to nurture them, which is represent a threat for Qatar before even it represent a threat for the entire globe. So this accusation has failed. They couldn't justify it. They reached to a level of desperation to buy a few seconds in publishing TV commercial to demonize Qatar. So it shows that the mean for this blockade wasn't about terrorism, wasn't about the issue of representing a threat for the globe, but it's about the difference between Qatar in foreign policy with them, which seems that they want to infringe the sovereignty of this country and to undermine our decision-making process and impose foreign policy in Qatar, which cannot happen for any sovereign state. Yeah. So regarding Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, and all the and any terrorist organization, Qatar is not supporting. Muslim Brotherhood has been a political party in power for a certain point of time, and they are now in the past. We have supported the government. Qatar is a state, not a political party, so we don't rely our support of any government who's governing them or who's the ruler party. The ruler party is chosen by the people of this country, not by Qatar or by any other country.
Let me ask you this. Since you have been a student of this for so many years and have watched what has taken place over the years, where do you think groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS get their funding?
Al-Qaeda and ISIS, their funding, they are getting from different sources. I'm sure there are a lot of research which has been conducted about them, and mainly the funds they are getting from selling some of the goods there in Syria and Iraq, or exporting oils, or by kidnapping people and getting getting funds in exchange of exchanging them.
Do you worry that there is Qatari money that is getting to them indirectly, and they are using that money to actually do some of this oil sales on the black market, kidnapping, etc.?
Well, regarding any Qatari citizen or anyone who is living in Qatar who is involved in supporting groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS is held accountable for the crimes he has committed. Qatar is taking this issue very seriously from the top of the leadership of the country. So we are not going to allow anyone to use Qatar or use the financial institutions of Qatar to support those extremist groups. In fact, we have a strong partnership with the United States in this front, and Qatar has been the first responder to the call of the president during Riyadh summit, and we have signed this cooperation agreement, which is progressing very well between the two countries.
Yeah. Let me ask you, you mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, so did I. Do you regard the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization?
Well, Muslim Brotherhood is not listed terrorist organization in many countries. Muslim Brotherhood, there are.
In some countries they are, though?
It's not. In some countries they are, but Muslim Brotherhood is not a pan. It's not a pan organization which is correct. There are different organizations which are related or linked to Muslim Brotherhood in different countries. And Qatar policy, mainly, we are developing our policy based on country by country.
But how could you say the Muslim Brotherhoods are terrorists in one country but not terrorists in another country?
Well, regarding the Muslim Brotherhood, whom the countries who considered them as a terrorist organization, this is being built on their own assessment, not on Qatar assessment. If what Qatar recognized as a terrorist list is the UN Security Council, and we have a joint measures taken together between Qatar and the United States when it comes to the listing of the United States.
What